Hello Dub Nation, it's always a thrill to connect with you, especially as we're about to reveal the latest news that could shape the fate of our beloved Golden State Warriors. But before we dive into this whirlwind of information, let me make a friendly request. Show us some love by clicking the like button to strengthen our bond, and hey, if you are not subscribed yet, join our channel for a thrilling and emotional journey. Don't forget to turn on notifications to stay ahead of the game. Stephen Curry believes that the Warriors are not far from becoming contenders again in the West. After being named Clutch Player of the Year in 2024, Warriors star Stephen Curry spoke about his basketball future and what to expect from the Warriors this summer. Following a disappointing campaign for the four-time champions, Steph confirmed that they will be ready to bounce back next season and are not far from being a high-level contender again. The sad part was losing 3 games to get out of the play-in and into a playoff series, said Curry, via NBA Sports. Even in a game like the one against Sacramento in the play-in tournament we had, you think, okay, we're losing one and we can plan the game to try to get back into the series. At the start of the year, we had a lot of mistakes and some absences, but you realize we're not that far off, even trying to stay at that level, at that peak for so long. There are going to be some adjustments, we know. After trading Jordan Poole for Chris Paul last summer, the Warriors hope to reclaim their place atop the West this season. And while they performed better than the previous campaign, it wasn't enough to keep up with the Western Conference. With a 46-36 record this season, the Golden State finished 10th in the West and ultimately lost the elimination game against the Sacramento Kings. This summer, Steph expects to see some drastic changes within the organization, but he knows it won't be an easy fix to address such a flawed roster. When you lose, you have to look in the mirror and say, what can we do to improve? What gaps can we fill? And luckily we have some time to figure that out. A lot of conversations up there, with Coach Kerr trying to figure out how to get back to the level we expect. I haven't answered anything specific about what we need, but we will figure that out this summer. Steph and the Warriors are not accustomed to being out of the playoffs, but he intends to make the most of the offseason. If the Warriors play their cards right, this could be the summer that changes the course and puts the team back on track for one last title run. The Golden State Warriors are not done yet. After a chaotic campaign that ended with a crushing defeat in the play-in, the Warriors face many uncertainties about the future. With the core aging and players struggling to remain consistent, it's clear they cannot win a title as currently constructed. The question is, how much will the team change in the coming months? While the Dubs want to keep the championship core intact, this may not be feasible depending on the price. Klay Thompson, for example, will be an unrestricted free agent in July this year, but it's no secret that he is far apart in extension negotiations with the Warriors. Meanwhile, Draymond Green's increasingly erratic behavior threatens to destabilize the entire situation in the locker room, similar to what happened with Jordan Poole. If the Warriors want to regain their glory days, they'll need to make some tough decisions and potentially part ways with some players they've worked with for years. This is the price Golden State must pay to compete, and unless it's willing to sacrifice, it may never change the current status quo. The Warriors' biggest need to address in the 2024 NBA offseason. If the tears of Golden State Warriors star Stephen Curry following Draymond Green's ejection in late March were any indicator, the Steve Kerr-led team went through a tough situation this season. Trying to stay afloat in a crowded Western Conference with an aging roster while dealing with a somewhat distracted Green, who spent most of the season under scrutiny or undergoing counseling, battling for a spot in the play-in tournament was a new experience for the Warriors. Despite all the distractions, however, Golden State stayed afloat enough to face the Sacramento Kings in the 9-10 play-in matchup, with a chance to face the Pelicans for an NBA playoff spot. But they lost. The season ended at the hands of the team they sent home just a year before, making it clear that the Warriors were no longer the team to beat in the West. Their dynasty had practically officially ended, with the early exit seemingly being the nail in the coffin. So now, with an off-season period to ponder their lineup, there seems to be one question that stands above the rest. What happens with Klay Thompson? At first glance, it seems Thompson wouldn't be welcomed back with open arms by the Warriors. His 0-point performance in the lone play-in tournament hinted at that, especially after he took an extra look at the court upon exiting. And the fans? On social media, at least, they weren't kind. Several users called for Thompson to be cut from the roster, and while their opinion means nothing in the eyes of Kerr or team owner Joe Lacob, it gives an idea of the noise surrounding Thompson's name and future in Golden State. Thompson's teammates have also contributed. "I hope he's back here," Green said about Thompson. "I hope we can all close this out together the way we did, keep pursuing the things we know are available to us, which is winning championships and continuing to bring more success to a franchise than anyone can imagine." Curry echoed what Thompson expressed, stating that a situation where he and Thompson continue to judge together is what he hopes regarding future decisions. So, whether analyzing the team's state and its fans or addressing the internal chemistry that would be greatly altered without Thompson, or any member of the Warriors' core, for that matter, there are things to consider. One advantage of keeping Thompson is that, despite the issues he faced in his last game this season, he was a reliable scorer. He played 77 games in his third season since returning from a severe Achilles tendon injury that lasted several seasons and proved capable of staying healthy. Moreover, he averaged 17.9 points on just under 40% from three-point range to keep his name atop the statistics in many Warriors' victories. The downside, of course, is that as Thompson's age increases, so does the likelihood of him missing games or, in his case, shots. He's clearly not the same player he was alongside Curry and Green. Missing all shots in a do-or-die game is not his MO. But this season, it was. And unfortunately for him, he only had one game to score instead of a series. If Thompson ends up parting ways with the Warriors, then his last game in their colors will have been a dismal performance when it mattered most. Again, things to think about. The Warriors are obviously disappointed with how the season ended. They would undoubtedly have loved to challenge one of the top seeds in the West and make noise, but in what is becoming an increasingly clear tide change, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, and the Splash Brothers are all winless in their playoff series or at home. It will only get tougher with time. If Thompson is the long-term answer, and Golden State indeed decides to keep the band together with a more engaged Green, a clutch Thompson, and a perennial Curry, then they'll have other needs to address, size and youth. But before even starting to think about fixing a supporting cast around their core, they'll have to decide who in the core will stay and who will go. And Thompson is the first on that list. He's the biggest offseason question mark for the Golden State Warriors. A 9-year NBA veteran suggests that the Golden State Warriors will pull off a superstar trade after a season where they finished 10th in the Western Conference and failed to make the playoffs. It became clear that the Golden State Warriors need to find much greater support for franchise star Stephen Curry. Curry did his best to win the NBA Clutch Player of the Year award, but often found himself alone, including during the second half of the Warriors' play-in elimination at the hands of the Sacramento Kings. 9-year NBA veteran Brandon Jennings hinted that the Golden State Warriors will make a superstar trade this offseason. With Curry still one of the league's elite players, it's likely that the Warriors will seek some sort of roster upgrade through a trade. The extent of the upgrade will depend on who's available, with many believing that Golden State needs a genuine superstar if they have any hope of reigniting championship aspirations. In a Saturday post that may give hope to Warrior fans, Brandon Jennings accessed X/Twitter, sharing his belief that Curry will be playing with a superstar-type player next year. Speculation will arise as to which player that could be, assuming Jennings isn't hinting that Curry himself could be traded out of the franchise. Such an idea was floated after the Warriors season, but it remains highly unlikely despite the team's struggles. More about the potential availability of superstars will be known after the postseason, with some currently dealing with first-round playoff concerns. Giannis Antetokounmpo is sidelined due to injury, leading the Milwaukee Bucks to a 2-1 deficit against the Indiana Pacers. The Phoenix Suns have been the biggest disappointment during the postseason so far, resulting in a 3-0 deficit against the Minnesota Timberwolves, with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker's futures in the spotlight. LeBron James and Anthony Davis kept the Los Angeles Lakers season alive on Saturday, but the future of the former is still likely to make headlines, given the 39-year-old's ability to opt out and become a free agent. One positive aspect of the Warriors season was the form of their young players, with names like Jonathan Kuminga, Brandon Podziemski, and Tracy Jackson-Davis certainly valuable to rival teams should a major trade opportunity arise.